The alarm screamed through the academy station as red lights flashed across the metal corridors. A deep vibration ran through the floor like something heavy had struck the outside hull. Students in the orbital classroom froze in place, their tools still glowing in their hands. Some looked at the windows, others at the ceiling, but all faces turned pale at the same time. Rowan Hale did not wait. He pushed his chair back so fast it scraped the floor and echoed through the silent room. "Lock the doors," he shouted, even though the teacher had not given any order yet. His voice carried a sharp edge of control that cut through panic. 2 cadets reacted and ran toward the control panel, but the system already blinked red. Emergency lockdown had started on its own. Outside the curved glass wall, something huge moved across the station hull. Not a ship. Not a drone. It had no clear shape, only a shifting shadow that bent light around it. Every second it passed, the stars behind it flickered as if reality itself was being erased. A few students started breathing too fast. One dropped his data tablet. Another whispered a prayer under his breath. But Rowan's eyes were not on the window for long. His attention locked on the back of the room. There was an empty seat there. A simple student chair like all the others. But something about it felt wrong. Not broken. Not damaged. Just ignored by everyone's mind. Rowan frowned. A cadet beside him followed his gaze. "What are you looking at?" she asked. Rowan did not answer at first. His mind was trying to understand why he felt like someone was sitting there even when his eyes showed nothing. Then he saw it. A slight movement, like air bending around a shape. He stepped forward without thinking. "There's someone there," he said. The girl shook her head fast. "No, Rowan. That seat is empty. It's been empty all semester." Rowan ignored her and walked straight down the aisle. As he moved, something strange happened. The alarms in the room seemed to soften near that seat, like sound itself avoided it. The closer he got, the harder it became to focus, like his thoughts were slipping away. He stopped right in front of the empty chair. For a moment he saw nothing. Then he blinked, and a figure appeared. A student-sized shape, sitting perfectly still. Humanoid but not human. Thin horns curved back from the head. Scales faintly shimmered like glass under weak light. Wings folded tightly behind the back, almost blending into the air. The most disturbing part was not his body. It was his presence. Because the others still did not react. 2 cadets walked right past Rowan and the seat, talking about evacuation routes, completely unaware that anything was there. Rowan's breath slowed. "You can see me?" a voice whispered. It was soft, shaken, full of disbelief. The figure looked directly at Rowan for the first time. His eyes were deep silver, trembling slightly as if they had been waiting for centuries to be noticed. Rowan did not step back. He pulled the empty chair beside him and sat down slowly, like it was the most normal thing in the world. "I can see you," Rowan said calmly. "You are not invisible to me." A small pause followed. The figure's fingers tightened on the edge of the desk. "That is not possible," he whispered. "No one sees me. Not even recordings. Not even memory logs. I've been sitting here for I don't know how long." Rowan glanced at the shaking walls as the station trembled again. The shadow outside the glass shifted closer, pressing against the hull like it was searching. "You picked a bad time to be ignored," Rowan said quietly. The figure tried to speak again, but the classroom lights flickered violently. For half a second Rowan's vision blurred. When it cleared, 2 nearby students had turned their heads toward the seat. But their faces showed confusion. One of them frowned and said, "Rowan, who are you talking to?" Rowan felt a cold drop in his chest. The figure beside him stiffened. "I told you," he whispered urgently. "They never see me. But sometimes they almost do. Then it goes away." Rowan's mind moved fast. Something was affecting perception itself. Not just invisibility. Something deeper. Outside, the shadow on the hull stopped moving. It felt like it had noticed something inside. Rowan placed his hand firmly on the desk. "Stay here," he said to the figure. "Do not move." The figure looked at him with confusion and fear. "Why would you help me?" Rowan did not answer immediately. Because at that exact moment, the station's entire alarm system shifted tone. A new warning replaced the old one. Unknown entity locked on internal presence. The lights went dark for 1 second. And in that darkness, the figure whispered something that made Rowan's stomach tighten. "It found me again." Rowan did not move when the warning message flashed again across the broken screens. His hand stayed firmly on the desk beside the invisible student, as if letting go would break something important. The whole classroom shook slightly as another impact hit the station's outer hull. Dust drifted from the ceiling vents. The figure beside him trembled. "It found me again," he whispered, voice thin and broken. Rowan leaned closer. "Tell me what found you." For a second the student did not answer. His silver eyes flickered as if even memory was unstable inside him. Then he spoke slowly. "I don't have a name they remember. But I am Caliph." As he said it, something strange happened. A few nearby lights flickered in response, like the station itself struggled to keep the sound of his name alive. Then instantly a cadet walking past the aisle stopped. He looked directly at Rowan. "There's no one sitting there," the cadet said flatly. Rowan felt a sharp tension in his chest. "Yes, there is." The cadet frowned harder. "Rowan, you're alone. That seat is empty." Two more students turned. Their eyes scanned the same spot. Confusion spread fast like a virus. Within seconds the entire row began to act like Caliph was not there at all. But Rowan still saw him clearly. Calith's breathing became faster. "It's starting again. They forget me when it gets close." Rowan understood something important in that moment. This was not simple invisibility. It was deletion from perception itself. The station shook again, harder this time. The alarm shifted into a deeper tone, like a warning meant for entire fleets. Outer entity approaching internal breach point. The window beside them cracked slightly. Outside, the shadow that had moved across the hull earlier was no longer distant. It pressed against the station's outer layer like a living stain. Metal bent inward without breaking, as if reality itself was being pushed. A few students screamed now. Panic spread through the classroom. But Caliph was still the center of Rowan's focus. Rowan grabbed the edge of Calith's desk. "Listen to me. Stay close. Don't let go of anything physical. If you move too far from me, I might lose you too." Caliph looked confused. "Why do you care? You are the only one who sees me. That usually ends badly for you." Rowan gave a short breath. "Maybe. But I don't like broken systems." Before Caliph could answer, a sudden crack of light burst through the classroom door. Emergency shutters began closing automatically. A teacher's voice echoed through the intercom, but it sounded distorted. "Evacuate to safe pods. Unknown entity breach confirmed." Cognitive instability spreading through sections A through D. The sound cut halfway. Caliph flinched. "It's already inside the system." Rowan stood up instantly. "Inside means it can track signals." Caliph shook his head fast. "Not just signals. Attention. Memory. Anything that confirms existence." Rowan's eyes sharpened. He looked at the other students again. They were still acting like Caliph was not there. Even when Caliph spoke, they did not react. It was like the universe itself had edited him out of their awareness. Rowan made a fast decision. He reached under the desk and pulled out his emergency data tool. A small military-grade device, normally used for system override in station crises. Caliph stared at it. "What are you doing?" "If it feeds on perception," Rowan said, "then we force perception." Caliph did not understand. "That makes no sense." Rowan already connected the tool to the classroom's local network. "We make them see you." A warning flashed immediately on the device. "Unauthorized broadcast detected. Cognitive safety risk high." Caliph suddenly grabbed Rowan's wrist. "Don't do it. If it focuses on me fully, it will lock on harder." Rowan did not pull away. "It already knows you exist. Hiding is not working." Outside, the shadow moved again. This time faster. The station lights dimmed in response, like fear spreading through circuits. Calith's voice dropped. "If I become fully visible again, it will come straight through the station core." Rowan looked at him directly. "Then we make it visible too." Pause. Caliph froze. "What?" Rowan tapped one final command. A soft pulse spread through the classroom systems. Every screen, every light panel, every emergency beacon suddenly began broadcasting Calith's image. For a split second nothing changed. Then, a student near the front blinked. "Wait," he said slowly. "Who is that?" Another turned sharply. "There is someone sitting there." Confusion exploded instantly. The classroom snapped into chaos as perception corrected itself. Caliph became visible to everyone at once. But at the exact same moment, the outer hull of the station groaned loudly. The shadow outside stopped moving completely, as if it had just found what it was looking for. Calith's face went pale. "No, you made it notice me." Rowan stared at the cracked window. The shadow began to press inward, and the glass started to bend. The glass did not break immediately. It bent first, like reality itself was being forced to forget its own rules. A deep groaning sound filled the classroom as the outer hull of the station strained under pressure that had no physical shape. Students screamed and backed away from the windows. Chairs fell. Emergency lights flickered faster, unstable, like the station was losing control of its own systems. Caliph stood up slowly. That was the worst part. Now that he was visible, fear followed him like a shadow inside the room. Every student could see him clearly, and every system in the station now confirmed his existence at once. Rowan stayed calm, but his eyes were sharp. It reacted fast, he said quietly. Caliph turned toward him, panic rising. You made me real to it. That is how it hunts. It locks onto confirmed existence and erases it layer by layer. Rowan looked at the bending glass again. Then it was already here. We just made it stop pretending. A sudden crack echoed through the corridor outside. Something had passed through a sealed bulkhead like it was never solid. The lights dimmed for a second. When they returned, 3 students near the door froze mid-motion. Then they simply stopped existing in the way others understood. No blood. No explosion. Just empty space where they had been. A chair tipped over slowly, falling with no owner. Silence hit the room harder than the alarm. Caliph whispered, "It started eating perception." Rowan noticed something important in that moment. The creature did not destroy matter first. It removed recognition. Memory failed before reality did. That made it worse. Because fear alone would not stop it. You could not fight something people could forget while watching it. Rowan stepped forward without hesitation. He grabbed the emergency control panel on the wall and forced a manual override. Sparks flashed as he bypassed safety protocols. The system screamed warnings, but he ignored them. "Rowan," a cadet shouted. "What are you doing?" He did not look back. "Keeping us alive." Caliph moved closer to him instinctively. "It is already inside the station network. You cannot control it." Rowan typed fast. "Not control. Redirect." He pulled up the station's broadcast grid. Every camera, every sensor, every light node. The entire system that observed reality inside the station. Caliph realized it immediately. "You are trying to spread my signal." Rowan nodded once. "Not just spread. Multiply." Caliph stepped back. "That will make it stronger." Rowan shook his head. "No. It will make you everywhere at once." Caliph froze. "That is worse." Rowan's fingers paused for a fraction of a second. "Or it confuses it." Outside, the shadow slammed into the station hull again. This time the impact did not sound physical. It sounded like silence being crushed. More students vanished from perception. Panic rose higher. Some ran, others froze, unable to process what they were seeing. Caliph looked around helplessly. "It is learning faster than us." Rowan activated the broadcast system. Instantly, Caliph's image exploded across every screen in the classroom, then across the entire station network. His face, his form, his presence, broadcast everywhere at once. For a moment everything stopped. The creature outside also stopped moving. Like it was confused. Caliph felt it too. He staggered slightly. "I can feel it looking everywhere at once." Rowan held the system steady. "Good. Let it look." The station alarms changed again. Unknown entity focus shift detected. Multi-point anomaly expansion. Caliph turned sharply to Rowan. "It is locking onto all copies of me. It will tear the station apart searching." Rowan's voice stayed calm. "Then we give it too many places to search." Caliph's eyes widened. "That is not strategy. That is suicide." Rowan finally looked at him. So is standing still. A sudden shockwave ran through the station. The glass fully cracked now. Thin lines spread like spiderwebs across the window. Outside, the shadow was no longer just a shape. It was becoming defined through its actions, like reality was being forced to interpret it. And it was getting closer. A new sound came through the walls. Not a roar. Not a machine. More like something reading existence out loud. Caliph clutched his head. "It is mapping me. Every broadcast makes it understand me more." Rowan adjusted the system again, changing frequency layers rapidly. "Then we break the pattern." Caliph looked at him sharply. "You are improvising against a cosmic entity that deletes reality. That is not normal human behavior." Rowan did not answer. He just increased the signal spread again. Suddenly, all the lights in the classroom turned white. Every screen showed Caliph at the same time, but each image slightly different. Angles, timing, versions of him that should not exist. The system was now generating variations. The creature outside paused again. For the first time, it hesitated. Caliph felt it. "It does not understand me anymore." Rowan whispered, "Good." But the victory did not last. A deep pressure built in the air, like something had decided to stop thinking and start acting. The station's core alarms activated instantly. Core breach imminent. Caliph looked at Rowan, fear returning stronger than before. It is coming inside. Not through doors. Through reality itself. Rowan stared at the cracking window. And said quietly, "Then we move first." The lights went out completely. And in the darkness, the glass finally shattered inward. The glass did not explode outward like normal damage. It folded inward, silently, as if space itself had lost permission to hold shape. A cold wave of pressure swept through the classroom, and every light died at the same time. In the complete darkness, sound changed. Not louder. Heavier. Caliph staggered back, his breathing uneven. Even though he was visible now, something about him still felt unstable, like reality was struggling to agree on his existence. Rowan did not move. He had already switched his emergency tool to manual override mode, relying only on touch and memory. His hands stayed on the control panel, fingers moving fast across invisible inputs. Outside, the station groaned again. Not metal stress this time. Something deeper. Like existence itself was being pulled apart layer by layer. "It is inside," Caliph whispered. His voice shook. "I can feel it." Rowan replied without hesitation. "Then we don't let it choose where to go." A sudden shift happened in the air. The temperature dropped sharply. Then, a section of the wall simply stopped being there. Not destroyed. Not broken. Just removed from understanding. A corridor beyond the classroom became visible through an impossible gap, but parts of it flickered in and out like broken memory. A cadet standing near the door opened his mouth to scream, but the sound never fully formed. His body froze halfway. Then he vanished from perception. A chair fell where he had been. Caliph stepped forward instinctively, but Rowan grabbed his arm. "Don't chase it." Caliph turned sharply. "People are disappearing." Rowan's voice hardened. "That is what it wants." Reaction. Outside the classroom, emergency shutters tried to close again, but failed halfway. Something interfered with their command sequence. The station systems were no longer fully responding. A deep tone echoed through the walls. "Core entity present. Cognitive disruption at maximum level." Caliph's eyes widened. "It is not just hunting me anymore. It is stabilizing itself inside the station systems." Rowan finally looked at him. "Explain clearly." Caliph swallowed. "It feeds on confirmed existence. But now that I am visible everywhere, it is using my signal as a map. It is rebuilding itself through observation." Rowan understood instantly. "You made it easier to find you." Caliph nodded weakly. "Yes." Rowan turned back to the control panel. "Then we break the map." He initiated a full system scramble. Every camera, every sensor, every recording device inside the station began rotating Caliph's data patterns randomly. No stable image. No consistent signal. Caliph grabbed his wrist. "That will make me unstable again." Rowan didn't stop typing. "Better unstable than predictable." The station shook violently. The corridor outside the classroom distorted. Hallway lights bent sideways. Gravity felt uneven for a moment. Then something stepped into view. Not fully formed. Not fully physical. A shifting mass of negative space, surrounded by flickers of erased matter. It looked like the absence of things pretending to be alive. Students who saw it directly froze. One by one they began to disappear from recognition. Caliph stepped back in fear. "That is it." Rowan studied it carefully. It did not move like an animal. It moved like a correction. As if reality itself was trying to fix a mistake. Rowan made a decision instantly. "Caliph," he said, "you stay visible to me only." Caliph blinked. "What?" Rowan adjusted the system again. "I am cutting you off from external observation feeds. Only my direct perception and local sensors will register you." Caliph shook his head. "That reduces my presence. It might erase me completely." Rowan replied calmly. "Or it removes its target lock." Pause. The creature outside shifted slightly, reacting to the change. Its focus wavered for the first time. Caliph felt it too. It lost alignment. Rowan confirmed it. "Good. Now it is blind in one direction." But the victory was fragile. The entity suddenly reacted by expanding. Entire sections of the station began fading at the edges of perception. Rooms vanished mid-sentence. Hallways turned into nothing. Systems stopped reporting their own existence. Caliph's voice cracked. "It is compensating. It is deleting everything around me instead. Rowan's jaw tightened. Then we stop focusing on you. Caliph turned sharply. What? Rowan pointed at the control grid. We make it chase something bigger than you. Before Caliph could respond, Rowan rerouted all emergency broadcasts to a full station loop of conflicting signals. False alarms, overlapping identities, fragmented data of multiple Caliph-like signatures spreading across every deck. The system exploded into chaos. The entity outside hesitated again. Its movement slowed. It was now facing too many contradictions. Caliph whispered, "It cannot decide." Rowan nodded. "Then we give it a final problem." He pushed one last override. All station-wide sensors simultaneously broadcast Caliph's presence, but also broadcast Rowan's direct perception link, forcing the system to acknowledge two observers at once. The entity reacted instantly. It shifted toward the classroom. Full attention locked on them. The pressure in the air collapsed inward. Caliph gasped. "It is coming here." Rowan stood still. For the first time he looked directly at the entity forming outside the broken corridor, and said quietly, "Then come." The walls around them began to disappear from existence, and the entity stepped through the final barrier. The corridor outside the classroom collapsed into silence as the entity stepped fully inside. It was no longer just a shadow on the hull or a distortion in systems. It had taken form through absence itself, like reality had forgotten how to describe it and gave up trying. The air inside the classroom felt heavy, like pressure pressing directly on thought. Students who were still present could not even scream properly. Some stood frozen, others had already begun fading at the edges of perception. Caliph stood near Rowan, shaking. "It is not looking at me anymore," he whispered. "It is looking at everything." Rowan did not step back. His eyes stayed locked on the shifting mass ahead. Good. That means it stopped picking favorites. The entity moved again. Not walking. Not flying. It simply became closer. A desk between them vanished without breaking. A section of wall disappeared like it had never existed. The classroom shrank in uneven pieces as reality peeled away. Caliph clenched his fists. "It is rewriting the space to remove resistance." Rowan answered calmly. "Then we resist smarter." He quickly checked the control panel one last time. The system was unstable, flickering between multiple corrupted states. But there was still one loop active, Caliph's distributed signal mesh. Rowan adjusted it. Caliph noticed immediately. "What are you doing?" Rowan replied, forcing it to overfocus. Caliph stepped back. "That already almost killed us once." Rowan's voice stayed steady. "This time it won't focus on you." The entity paused again. For the first time it seemed uncertain. Because Rowan had changed the pattern. Caliph was no longer the single anchor of perception. The system now registered overlapping observation points, Caliph, Rowan, station sensors, emergency loops, all contradicting each other. The entity began to slow. Its movement became uneven, like it was struggling to decide what reality should be. Caliph's eyes widened slightly. "It is weakening." Rowan corrected him. "It is confused." The entity reacted. A wave of distortion spread outward. Lights bent. Sound reversed for a second. The classroom walls flickered between existing and not existing. Students who remained were now at the edge of total disappearance. Caliph turned to Rowan. "If it stabilizes even once, it will lock onto one of us permanently." Rowan nodded. "Then we don't let it stabilize." He took a deep breath and made a final system change. Instead of broadcasting Caliph's existence, he broadcast contradiction itself. Every sensor, every camera, every system began reporting impossible data. Caliph present and absent, Rowan observed and unobserved, the classroom both intact and destroyed. The entity reacted violently. Its form twisted. For the first time it stopped advancing. It began to fracture. Caliph felt it immediately. "It cannot resolve us anymore." Rowan watched closely. "Because it needs certainty. And we removed it." The entity tried to push forward again, but the space around it broke into layered inconsistencies. Reality refused to settle into one version of events. A deep, silent pressure filled the room. Then something unexpected happened. The entity pulled back. Not retreating in fear. Recalculating. Caliph stepped forward instinctively. "It is adapting again." Rowan grabbed his arm immediately. "No. Let it." Caliph looked confused. "Why would we let it adapt?" Rowan's eyes narrowed. "Because adaptation requires structure." He pointed at the control grid. "And we are about to remove its structure." Before Caliph could react, Rowan triggered the final emergency protocol. The station-wide perception grid collapsed into a controlled loop. Every observation system began feeding back into itself endlessly. No external reference. No stable anchor. Just infinite self-observation. Kalitha's voice dropped. You turned the whole station into a closed perception system. Rowan nodded once. Yes. Kalith looked alarmed. That will trap us too. Rowan answered, only if we are still part of the system. The entity reacted instantly. It expanded, trying to anchor itself through any remaining perception channels. But now there were none. It began to lose definition rapidly. The shape in front of them flickered violently, unable to maintain consistency. Kalith stared. It is collapsing. Rowan watched carefully. It is losing observation support. The entity made one final attempt. It pushed toward Kalith again, trying to re-establish him as a reference point. But Kalith was no longer a single signal. He was fragmented across the system loop, unstable, impossible to lock onto. The entity froze. For a brief second, everything became still. Then it began to shrink. Not disappearing violently, but unraveling like a concept being erased from thought itself. Kalith whispered, "It is gone?" Rowan did not relax yet. Not gone. Contained in contradiction. The pressure in the room lifted slowly. The lights flickered back on in broken patterns. The station alarms finally quieted. Silence returned. But it was not peace yet. Kalith slowly looked around. Half the classroom was still missing. Some students had returned to perception. Others were gone completely, like they had never existed. Kalitha's voice was quiet. We survived, but not everything did. Rowan finally lowered his hand from the panel. Yes, he said. But we proved it can be stopped. A long pause followed. Kalith turned toward him. Why did you choose to help me? You didn't know what I was. Rowan looked at him for a moment. Then replied simply, because you were there. Kalith said nothing. Outside the broken window, space itself looked calmer again. The entity was no longer visible. But deep in the station systems, a faint residual signal remained. Like something had learned how to remember them. Rowan noticed it immediately. His expression hardened slightly. Kalith followed his gaze. What is it? Rowan paused. Then said quietly, something else is still watching. And far beyond the station, in the silent dark between stars, another signal began to answer.